Belle Ami, CH Admirand, and Aurrora St. James. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.
Hi.
So Marie Higgins also has a release this week, and we're going to talk about her book as well. She was unable to be with us, but we'll catch up with her in one of the future weeks. But we had 4 Dragonblade releases this week: three regular books, 2 time travel books, and a Lion's Den book. So I'm very excited about this. I'm particularly excited about the time travel part this week because I love time travel books. So actually, Colleen, if you want to start with your Lion's Den book. Because we just talked just a little bit ago, and it's Captivated by the Lion.
Yes.
And the smolder on that cover, my goodness.
Yeah, I see. I have it as my screensaver, and sometimes I'm like, oh no, I have to write. So yeah, I do that. It was very lucky with the covers. We have gorgeous covers though at Dragonblade. Dar Albert does a fabulous job. Yeah. This is my second Lion's Den book. And it's actually connected to the first one because it's about the Broadbank brothers. The first one was Captain Colin Broadbank. He was in the Navy. Their older brother died of a virulent fever. It happened very quickly. He was called back from the Navy and did not want to go with what his father wanted him to do as far as getting married. So the younger brother, Edmund, was like, why don't you just go to the Lion's Den? The Black Widow of Whitehall can make an arrangement. You'll find the perfect bride. And, well, you'll have to read that story to find out what happened to them. But this time, it's Edmund's turn. And I actually had a reader comment that, well, whatever happened with that actress who was supposed to have the affair with the older brother and had the older brother's child? And I was like, that is a good point. And I'll have to get back to you because Edmund and Colin haven't told me what happened yet. So after I talked to Edmund, and I know this sounds really weird, and yes, we do have those conversations. Sometimes when my kids and my grandsons are around and they look at me like, who's she talking? I'm like, it's okay, it's my characters. And the sister is the one who shows up to find out she wanted to meet with the older brother, and apparently you'll see in the opening of the book, she arrives and the Earl treats her very badly and doesn't even let her in the house. And he's like shouting at her and they're on the sidewalk and she like can't believe what's going on. Yeah. And, but he doesn't realize this is the sister. This isn't the woman that had the affair with his son. And he just blankly tells her, well, he's dead. And then she doesn't know what to do. That's in the prologue. So we go on from there. The story gets better. I mean, I don't always like to open a book with death, but sometimes that happens. Sometimes they're standing on a scaffold waiting to be hanged by the neck until they're dead. That seems to be a theme. I'm going to have to work on that in my next book, not to include that. I mean, it is a romance, right?
Start with bunnies in the next one.
Oh, bunnies.
I haven't started one. Oh, no, I did. That was a while ago. I did start a book where they were in bed together. That was difficult to write because I have to keep pausing and going, fanning myself and then being like, okay, I really have to move on from this scene and have to have something in the book besides this scene that was going on and on. Yeah. But maybe I'm the only one that has those issues. So, but anyway, it was a fun book to write. And I love writing for the Lion's Den.
Yeah, it's such an interesting interconnected series, because there's so many different flavors of books within that world. So it's fun to see what everybody else does with it. So your hero in this one is the younger brother.
The younger brother, Edmund. Yeah.
What's he like?
But, he's tall and he's dark and he's broad and he's not as loud as his older brother, who's the captain of a ship who, had the booming voice, and he still uses it from the top of the stairs in his townhouse. But he doesn't trust easily, and he's not really sure what he thinks of Adelaide. And they have no idea that Mrs. Dove-Lyon has decided that she's going to match the two of them together. He thinks he's going to go in and meet the woman who they've been trying to track down for over a year. But it's not. It's the sister. And she's taking care of her nephew. So it's really tricky.
I can't believe it. The gardener. It's the gardener.
Well, the gardener.
So Belle, I was holding her all morning long because they were mowing up outside. I'm thinking, oh, no.
Yeah.
Shit. Oops.
Okay. It's
You're the
light.
one CH I was worried about.
I was hoping that since these are in, you couldn't hear it. Oh God, now it's the doorbell.
And this is when you say it's not Memorex. This is live.
so I'm going to mute Belle for a minute. And her book. Would you like to tell us about your book? Your book is the first book in a new series. It's the Earl's Timely Wallflower. I love the idea, and it's Taken by Destiny. Is the series? Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Sure. This series follows three siblings, and it starts out with the middle sister Lily, who finds a little like Fabergé egg type clock in her boss's drawer, hidden tucked away, and accidentally time travels back to Regency, England, where she is almost run over by a carriage and taken back to a house to kind of gather herself in, heal up, and she meets the hero Gabriel, who's the Earl of Rothden. And he thinks that his sister has brought home a crazy woman who's kind of strangely dressed. And Gabriel he's a really interesting character. He took over the earldom unexpectedly. I mean, he knew he was going to, but he took it over about 10 years sooner than he thought he would, and found that his father had almost ruined them financially. And so he spent quite a bit of time building back up the family finances, and he's very serious about his family and his duties and responsibilities. And the book starts out a couple of weeks before he's supposed to go back to Parliament at the start of Parliament. And so he's decided, before he goes back to all of his responsibilities, including finding a husband for his sister, he's going to throw one last house party. And Lily arrives on his doorstep the day before everyone is supposed to show up. And so it totally throws a wrench into his life and his plans, especially because she can't just like be hidden away in the attic somewhere. She's a person. So he and his sister have to spend time like dressing her into something that, she doesn't have, a corset on her tennis shoes kind of a thing. And also, educating her in how to dance and, all of the different etiquettes and things like that. And so all of the plans that he'd made that he was supposed to do, like his hunting parties and things like that, have all gone on hold. So his friends arrive and they do all the things that he wants to be doing. And instead he is trying to help Lily acclimate to her timeline and figure out how to get home. So, and also deal with his little sister, who's very anxious to start her own family and is constantly bugging him to find her a suitable husband, which he doesn't want to do because they're very close, and he's not ready to lose his little sister out of his life yet, and he feels like he's going to when she gets married. So
Poor thing,
he has
got
high
a lot of
hopes
going on.
Yeah.
He has high hopes for those couple of weeks, and none of them are reached. So, because you got to torture your character some. I mean, it's important. So,
who's the heroine? How does she deal with going back in time?
Her name is Lily Bennett, and she, like I said, she's the middle sister. She has a younger sister and an older brother, and she finds that little Fabergé egg. And so Lily has the three of them lost their parents back right after she turned 18, and they died in a car accident. And so she spent most of her time taking care of her little sister until her sister was old enough to move out on her own and go to college. And since then, she's felt lost, and she's kind of been wandering from place to place and job to job. And so at the start of the book, she is working at a little bookstore, and her boss took pity on her and gave her a job when no one else really would because she was new to town. And so when she finds this little Fabergé egg clock in his desk, it's broken, and she decides to, as a thank you to help him, I mean, for all that he's done, that she's going to try and fix this clock. And when she does fix the clock, it transports her back into Regency England. So she basically arrives. She falls and she hits her head because she's so startled with the clock. And so when she arrives, she's very much kind of out of sorts and ends up stumbling into the road, which is how she almost gets run over by Violet's carriage. So,
That's a lot of stuff happening to her right away, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
well, you got to get started out with a lot of action, right? So get the reader engaged and really understanding where these two characters are starting from, so that the changes that they go through in the story really make an impact on them.
Oh, cool. It sounds like a lot of fun. How many books are in the series?
There will be 3, just one for each of the siblings. So,
So which one of the sisters?
the next book is the little sister, and then the third and final book is their older brother, who is a Navy SEAL. And he's he has just gone into he's just come out of the military for an injury, and he's healing from that, and going back into Regency England. He's like, the military prepared him for everything except the ballrooms of London. So
that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to that and to the rest of the series. And that one is available now. That one came out on Tuesday. So it's available. It's available now. So no waiting. No waiting. I love no waiting.
Thank you.
It sounds like so much fun. So Belle, you also have a time travel book that came out this week. It's the third book in the Lost in Time series. And I think on a Tuscan Time. And I think on a previous time when we talked, you said it was like Sex in the City and time travel.
The series, because it is
the whole time. I love the idea of girlfriends that all go back in time. So what is this about?
So the theme is 3 best friends. One is the first book is London Time, and she is a editor. She runs a magazine and a romance type magazine. And then the second is a dermatologist to the stars. And the third which is this book, is Gabriella D'Angelo, and she is a chef who runs a family restaurant in Chicago. So they're all in New York having a girls' happening weekend, and they're brought together because they've all fallen in love with a book. And the book, what the hell is the book called? No. The Time Traveler's Lover. It's called The Time Traveler's Lover. And they're looking, and it's based, supposedly they think it's a true story, but it's supposed to be a novel because nobody believes it. It's also about a time traveler during World War II, a French woman who disappears, and they find this manuscript recently, and it becomes a sensation, overnight sensation, the book. They're making it into a movie and everything else. And it's about an artist in the Renaissance, and he has these 3 paintings, and they're at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the women all get together and go to the opening, and they're sitting in front of the paintings, and they're just like talking about them, and they're the 3 paintings are the I forget the name of the series. Of course, it's the love series. God, I'm just drawing a blank. But anyway, the other 2 have already gone back, one to London, one to Paris, all during the Victorian, pretty much. It starts in 1892 and it goes to 1902. So they all go at different times. But only a short distance apart. Yeah. So the third girl, she goes through and they're being asked to go. He takes them. The artist actually reaches through the painting and pulls them through.
Wow.
Each one has a different painting that they're supposed to help find, because there is an evil enchantress. Well, she's a sorceress in 1503 in Italy, and she wants to destroy him, destroy his art. So the paintings are fading. The paintings are fading and they're disappearing, and nobody can figure out the riddle
Why?
or why. So that's their mission. That's why they've been pulled back in time. She lands on a cliff bluff in Tuscany, and a rider and horse they comes charging at her. It's nighttime, and it's rainy and terrible weather, and the horse rears and she falls off the cliff, grabs onto I don't want to tell too much, but she grabs onto a brush, and it starts out with her hanging there, and she thinks she's going to die, and he looks down, and she can't really see him or anything because he's wet too. And they have this little conversation that you can tell, like he thinks she's crazy. I almost said a dirty word. He thinks she's crazy. He thinks she's crazy, and what the hell is she doing on the edge of a cliff? And she thinks he's a brute. Anyway, so he pulls her up. After a bit, he says, "You have no choice." He reaches to take her hand, and she doesn't trust him. And he basically says to her, "Odds aren't good for you if you don't take my hand." And she does, and he pulls her up. And so she ends up, he is very arrogant, but he's also very talented. He's in Tuscany, staying with his aunt, who Lady Darling, who is she's fabulous. Anyway, he's been pretty much banned. He ran away from England because his earldom has been taken from him by his cousin. He was in Egypt. He's an archaeologist, and he was in Egypt working with Carter on the discovery of the mummies and all the tombs and everything. So he's back, and he hasn't. The only way for him to get back his earldom and to his cousin, when his father died unexpectedly, his cousin had done things that made his father disown him, basically, and they legally transfer the estate into the cousin's name. So the only way to get it back is for him to go to court, and in order to go to court, he must marry a wealthy woman. So basically, it's their story because they are inexplicably drawn to each other, but she's always had kind of she doesn't think she's beautiful. She doesn't think but she knows she's talented. And she ends up, because the chef gets blutered and really drunk and starts throwing things and quits. And she, well, she doesn't quit. They have to send her home in a thing. But anyway, so Gabriella takes over at the cooking, but and they need her to do that because in arriving are guests, because his aunt runs an inn for English travelers who in those days used to come quite often to Italy to escape the luck in London. So it happens to be that who are arriving are her two best friends who are now married.
Fun!
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, that's so fun.
Now they're all going to be united, and they're all going to have to find the painting.
Oh, that's
and
so
the
much
evil
fun.
sorceress is also one of the guests, but they can't recognize her.
Supposed to be a long time ago, wasn't she?
She's a time
But
traveler.
she's a sorceress.
She's a sorceress and a time traveler.
You can't trust those bad guys to stay where you put them.
She is an evil one. She is evil.
Ooh,
Oh, that's so much
So
fun.
anyway,
That sounds like so much fun.
I had a lot of trouble.
Sounds really
with this
good.
book. I had a lot of, of course, I'm the worst pitcher in the world, but I had a lot of fun writing this book, but a lot of trouble, and it took me longer than normal. But in the end, I think it came out the best, interestingly enough, but we'll see.
And it's the last book in the series, right? So
this is the last book in the series, but I'm going to be in 2 anthologies for Dragonblade coming up.
Nice.
The short one, the short anthology about the Mystere, which will be Bessie Dove Lyon's birthday celebration. And then I'm going to be next year in a lion, one of the what do you call it? The world, the
The
connected
regular
world.
Lions
Connected
Den
World?
Connected World.
Yeah, so I'm writing
Yeah.
a novella, a 50,
Excellent.
60,000 word. So I'm kind of excited because that's a whole new thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like so much fun. Well, I love the premise of the series since you first started talking about it. I thought that was just such an interesting idea of contemporary women with their own agency that go back in time. So I'm wondering, since we have 2 time travel books this week, what do you think you would miss the most? What did your heroines miss the most about going back in time? What do you think you would miss the most if you got thrown back in time?
You're asking
I
me?
would miss. Sure.
I think they miss the power that that women and that women have rights today. That's the biggest thing that comes up in all 3 books, that they're powerful women and getting used to in the first book, she wanted to be a journalist, but she ended up with this magazine job, and there's a series of murders in London, and she with the hero, it's like a Jack the Ripper serial killer who actually works for the time traveler evil woman.
No.
Oh yeah, he's a time traveler, and they go after him, and they have to stop these murders. But she becomes the family that she lives with, who find her basically and take her in, have no, their daughter was one of the murdered women by this guy, and they like adopt her. They need each other.
Yeah.
So that creates a bond. And he owns a newspaper, the biggest newspaper in London. So she ends up convincing him to let her write for the newspaper. So she goes on the investigations. A murder happens, and she goes with Colin to the, to investigate. But she starts to write under a pseudonym, and she writes about women's rights, and she starts to have an influence. Women are starting, the demographic of women are begin to read her articles and things, because she's promoting women and saying that they need to be equal, and that they need, and so that was her thing. And then in the second book, she's a doctor, and she ends up also solving, there's another a murder, and she ends up
people are not very safe in your books, Belle.
What?
People are not very safe in your books.
No, they're not too safe. Well, in the third, yeah, they're not safe. I like a little
intrigue.
Trouble. I like trouble. Anyway.
Aurora, what about you? What are your heroines, or was this heroine miss the most about?
For Lily, family is most important to her, and so losing her family is the hardest part for her to make the change. Fortunately for her, both of her siblings will join her in the past, but she doesn't know that throughout her book. So that's probably the hardest thing for her to give up. Other than, something simple like air conditioning and clean clothing, you know what I mean? But
bathrooms, I would really miss bathrooms, I think.
Right? Yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, she bemoans the chamber pot quite a bit. So
yeah, there's stuff I just don't want to be that close to, and that's one of the things, Right. And toothbrushes. I think I would really miss toothbrushes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they had mint tooth powder back at the time, but it's not the same, I don't think. So,
but I don't like the idea of powder, and we used to get licorice sticks at the herb shop when I was in high school, and chew on them, because you could chew on them and it would make the end fibrous, and you could sometimes use those as toothbrushes, but that just seemed like not the same as this nice one.
Even apples.
Yeah.
Apple.
Apples clean your teeth too.
Yeah. Sage, if you went back in time, what do you think you would miss the most?
Oh, I would miss, indoor plumbing, because it's big in my book. If you ever watch Hercules, the Disney cartoon, when the muses go indoor plumbing, it's going to be big.
Yeah.
But, I would, there's so many things, though, that I would really like, though, about being in the time period. Well, except for arrogant men who didn't think women had an opinion. But yeah, I miss that. I would miss that. And I desperately miss my family.
Yeah, I love that in both of these series the contemporaries get to come back together, so
Yeah,
that you get
that
both
is.
the new love interest and and the connection with the people that you left behind.
And it's
I do,
unusual. It's unusual
yeah,
in a time travel. I love reading time travels. But yeah,
yeah, it is
they
unusual.
both sound awesome.
Thank you. Yours does too.
Yeah.
I'm excited because I'm also going to do a short story for the Lions anthology coming
Oh,
up.
The
cool.
Night
It'll be my first one. So
Night of
I'm
Lions. Yep.
I'm gonna have to read a bunch of the Lions books in advance to make sure that I'm at least writing in a similar fashion to them, so it's not
Did
too
you did you
thrown off.
download the notes that they have on the
A
because
little bit, yeah.
I loved that. I used that as my Bible when I wrote my first one. And it's got pictures, it's got the floor plan of the Lion's Den.
I have
It's
that.
got the street that it's on. The name escapes me right now, but and it's a blue building.
Yeah.
I mean, it actually exists in London, and they picked one. It's really cool. But you
That's awesome.
guys are gonna do a great job. I'm so excited that we're gonna be in it together. It's gonna be a
Thank
fun
you.
anthology. It really is.
Me too. And this
So
is
do you-
actually my first Dragonblade book ever, so I'm excited about that.
Congratulations! Welcome
Yeah,
to the family.
It was fun to put this one up, and it is such a beautiful cover. It's such a
Oh, gorgeous covers.
beautiful
Thank
book
you.
that
Yes.
Kim Killingham did this. Yeah. So I was
Yeah.
wondering, when
Beautiful.
you're writing in the Lion's Den world, do you find that to be a building already done for you? Is that a to know that you have these to move through, or is it easier to write when you? That is
But
a
it's my world.
non-committal head shake. I'm not sure that that's yes or no.
Well, it's yes and a no. It's so cool to have to. It's a challenge. It was a challenge for me to write in someone else's world, because you have to. Oh my God! It's like my characters. I have to listen to them and not me. So that was kind of like not unusual for me, but it was. I loved the challenge, and there's so many little nuances of characters that if you go back and you read the notes about, because of the first ones that came out, Jade Lee and Alexa Aston, I think were the two first ones. Great characters, and I love how they're all tied into a Midsummer Night's Dream. Midsummer Night's Dream. Is that
Yes,
the one? I
yes.
think that was, yeah. It was just, it was definitely harder, believe it or not, than having your characters argue with you. Mind you.
That makes sense to me, actually.
Uh-oh.
Do you have unruly characters too, Aurora?
Always,
Very
always.
unruly characters.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad I'm not alone.
But it's always better to listen to them because it always ends up working out better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like when you're stuck, that's usually what's happened. You've gone kind of a little off track, and don't realize it until you listen to them. So, well, ladies, it was delightful to talk to you this week. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sorry Marie couldn't join us. I'm going to make sure to put the link to her book and all the other books in the comments. I'm going to say the same thing I do every week because it's true this week, the same as it is every week. Dragonblade books are the best deal on pre-order and release day. You want to grab them then. If by chance you don't manage to get them then, and usually a day after as well. If you don't get them when they're still 99 cents, you can always read in Kindle Unlimited.
Yep.
Which is how I'm reading most of my books now. You don't even have to think about it. You can just click because you want to.
Yep.
That's right.
So, well,
Thank
there's so
you.
many good books to tide you through the weekend, and I will make sure that you have access to all of them, and we will be back here at the same time next week. Thanks so much, ladies.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye.